Same subject, different topic. So I'm reading the book. I told you I was reading Daring Greatly. It's by Dr. Brené Brown. She's a psychologist. And here's one of her lines. We love seeing raw truth and openness in other people, but we're afraid to let them see it in us. We're afraid that our truth isn't enough, and what we have to offer isn't without the bells and whistles, without editing and impressing. Why this little sentence popped out to me is because I was listening to Stephen Furtick podcast today on what he taught on Sunday. And what he taught on was how the enemy will convince us that if we don't have enough, we won't give. If the enemy convinces us that we're too poor, we're not going to give our finances. If the enemy convinces us that we are too depressed or we don't have enough joy, we're not going to pour joy into other people's lives. And if the enemy can convince us that our story and our testimony is not enough or great enough, then we're not going to share it. And it reminded me of the time when I was living in Turkey. I was with 7 other people, so 8 in total, for a span of about 3 months. And it was just us 8. We had to learn to really rely on each other to build a relationship with each other. I remember during this season, I had this dream. Where we were all in a church building and the bathrooms were broken. And so the church brought in these porta potties. The problem was with their public porta potties, they were just toilets right in the middle for everyone to see, up on the stage for every single person to see. And I was one of the ushers helping people to these toilets if they needed to use the restroom. I know, super weird dream. But at some point in the dream, I had to use the restroom. I was about to explode. I had to go so bad. But I wasn't willing to let everyone see me. And everyone kind of just kept encouraging me, like, we've all done it, we all had to do it, you know, it's your turn, you gotta go, just go, we've all done it, it's no different if you do it. I remember it was so hard for me, and I remember walking up to this toilet and staring at it and just thinking, I can't do this, and can someone cover me, can someone put up a towel, and everyone got mad because if they weren't allowed to do that, if they weren't allowed to cover themselves when they went to the restroom, then I certainly wasn't allowed to. And just go already, now it's getting annoying. And ultimately, I couldn't bring myself to it. I had to go so bad, I just couldn't bring myself to use this public restroom. It was too exposed and I couldn't do it. And so I woke up from that dream not using it. But then I ended up actually going to the bathroom because it was one of those dreams. And I knew automatically that this dream was addressing my fear of intimacy, especially with my team that I'd been living with, I think at that point, for a good month and a half. And I just could not bring myself to express myself to them, to really engage with them. And I was having a great time. I loved them, but I couldn't be vulnerable with them. And through just a lot of breaking down and through their encouragement and their just being there for me, and even at some points letting me just know that they're disappointed in the fact that I'm not being intimate with them and that I'm not sharing my vulnerabilities with them, I eventually, we got so close, and I was able to share with them how I felt and share with them my thoughts and my opinions and why I had them, and we began really to get a lot closer. And it's funny that I'm facing that fear all over again, but it's not just with a small group of 8 people that I'm spending 3 months with. It's with people in general now. And God is telling me to open myself up to all people everywhere. The thing with vulnerability is that it's that state of where fear and courage meet. It was so perfect when I read it in the book. There's an example of, it's like you're in the middle of a tightrope, and it doesn't matter whether you go forward or backwards, it's just as scary, but it's just as exhilarating. And you know what? After that time in Turkey, we all became very, very close, my team and I. And when we came home, we wanted to do our last hurrah together, our last big thing. And so we decided to go bungee jumping, of all things. And the thing with this site is that you had to hike 5 miles up in order to get to the jumping site. And so when we all got up there, we all had to use the bathroom, of course. The thing is that there was no bathroom. And the only available spot that they were letting people use for the bathroom was a very open, very public field. So, of course, the ongoing joke during our trip, after I told my team that I had that dream, was that Shekinah has to pee in public in order to rid herself of her fear of vulnerability. And the opportunity came. They did not hesitate in taking my hand out into that field and having me pee in front of a bunch of strangers. That's right, I did it. So there you have it. I faced my fears, both figuratively and literally, during that trip. Another moral of that story is surround yourself with people who will encourage you. Don't set yourself up for discouragement. You're only setting yourself up for failure. There are people out there who will love you enough to tell you that you are worth it, that you can go for that job, that you can go for that promotion, that life is not as bad as it seems. You need people, you need relationships that are going to push you forward and upwards and not down, and not try to keep you at this level state, because that's where you're going to stay. The relationships you have in your life are detrimental to not just building you up, but in how you build others up as well. I'm so grateful for the team that I had when I was living in Turkey. They were so encouraging. We were able to trust each other with everything. And eventually, they literally and figuratively helped me pee in public. Sounds weird, but it was a big step in my life, a big breaking point in my life that really pushed me forward in knowing how to build a relationship and how to be intimate with people and show myself for who I really am. I'm working on it still, but it was really that tipping point that really just pushed me over to realizing how important it is to have such strong relationships in your life. Okay, I know I am my father's daughter. I can keep going on this all day, but it's really hot right now. It's humid. I'm sweating. My hair is everywhere, and I think I'm going to stop to Starbucks for an iced drink and then head on home. For the few of you that made it through my ranting, thank you, and let me know your thoughts. Have a good week. Love you guys. Seriously.